Hey, everybody, welcome to Tim's Vinyl Confessions. I'm Tim Derling, and joining me once again is Jeff Whitcher, Jeff Whitcher's Vinyl Destination. And this isn't just any day that we're filming this. This is Record Store Day. And after we film this, Jeff's out the door, and he follow his channel and follow his socials to find out what goodies he gets. Because we were just talking before we started filming that when you're looking for very specific things, there's that race to get there. And so lots of luck, Jeff, and happy hunting. Thanks. So on this episode, this is one we've been talking about for quite a while, and both of us have pretty much the collection, to speak of. It's the vinyl collection of Heart that we both have. And so I'm gonna let Jeff start us off with the Heart collection on vinyl.
All right, so this, of course, is their debut. This is Dreamboat Annie, and I love the logo on here. I wish they had kept this logo around for, I know they have it on magazine, but I wish, they had used this a little more than what they did. I think it's a great logo, but anyway, the version I have is on Mushroom Records, and this, of course, was a gatefold. And this has Magic Man, Crazy on You on it, of course. And it's got the song Dreamboat Annie and also a reprise. This is the inner sleeve, and mine's kind of a thick cardboard, which is unusual for, the early 70s anyway. And it's got lyrics on it. And then love this label here. It's one of the more interesting labels, and I don't know that I've seen any other records on the Mushroom label. I think they were a pretty small label. Were they a Canadian label?
Yeah, they were a Canadian label based out of Vancouver. And if you've ever heard of the band Chilliwack, that were their Canadian band, they had a couple hits in the States in the early 80s. They were on Mushroom Records at one point. So some of their records have that logo too. But yeah, I've only got the couple, and they're both Heart. So that's really cool. I think I've got a slightly different version than that. Mine is on Mushroom. It was later reissued on Capitol, but this is a Mushroom issue. It's funny because you look at most discographies and it lists this album as 1976. This actually says 75 on it. So I'm guessing they released it on Mushroom in 75, and then Capitol reissued it a year later, or not sure how that worked, but yeah. So gatefold, just like yours. I think there's one place where it's different. My inner sleeve is more of a maroon color.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
a much darker red than yours. Yeah, which is kind of cool. And pretty sure that, I've got the, is it the same? Yeah, I think it's the same label on it.
Yeah, yep.
So, yeah, a classic album, became a hit right out of the gates, and then they signed to a major label, which brings us to the next record.
Yep. And this is Little Queen, which love that cover. It looks like they're at like a Renaissance festival or something. They're kind of in their best, 18th century or whatever clothing. And this one has also an inner sleeve. It's not the thick cardboard sleeve like the one for Dreamboat Annie, but it does have the lyrics on it. And this is on the Portrait label. And no gatefold this time out, but this, of course, has the FM radio staple Barracuda, which some people say, well, you lifted that from Achilles' Last Stand from Led Zeppelin. But Kick It Out is a great track. I mean, these songs were all over the radio when I was growing up. That's my first introduction to Heart, was just FM radio in the 70s and then playing all those hits from these first two albums. But yeah, I like this one a lot, and I think it's got a lot of character to it that kind of defined the Heart sound.
Yeah, Love Alive is a cool song, and the title song is very cool too. They were very Zeppelin-esque. They really were. Not just that one riff, which is just a chugging riff in the key of E. I mean, they borrowed a lot of the folky elements and stuff. But yeah, very elaborate cover shoot for this. So the whole band, so the Wilson sisters in the foreground, but the rest of the band, they were, you know, a 6-piece originally in the background. And then on the back, there's all of them. I've got a Canadian edition here, and it is on Portrait, which is a CBS label. Also, another difference, back to that Dreamboat Annie sleeve, my Dreamboat Annie sleeve isn't cardboard, it's paper. So that's kind of an interesting difference. I think we got the same sleeve for ours. I imagine yours is a US copy, but they would look very, very similar, except for just the little address in the fine print. So yeah, that's my copy of Little Queen. Might be the best Heart album from start to finish. I'm not sure. One of them. It's really, really good. So there was some, so the short version of the story is they got really angry with Mushroom Records because of an ad that they placed and the implications and the innuendo. And that's why they wrote Barracuda. That's one of the reasons. And that's one of the reasons they left Mushroom, signed to Portrait Records. But they still owed Mushroom Records another album, which leads us to the next thing.
So this is Magazine, which again has got the Heart logo on there. The last time you would see that, to my knowledge. But yeah, this is Mushroom Records. Nothing really on the back other than the songs. Most people would know the song Heartless off of here. That's the Mushroom label that was on the Dreamboat Annie one. And then this does have, mine is kind of jammed in here, but it's got a really bare inner sleeve here. It's a thin inner sleeve, and it's just got the lyrics to 6 of the, well, actually only 5 of the songs. Heartless, Devil Delight, Just the Wine, Magazine, and Here Song.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's another one that Capitol would eventually reissue, this magazine. Yeah, Heartless was the only hit off of it. I do like the cover. It's a simple concept, but I do kind of like it. They've used this logo, which I think that's the Heart logo. If you're going to ask me what the Heart logo is, I think it's this. They've used it in more recent years, but yeah, I think this is the last vinyl that I think I've seen it on. And this is a Mushroom Records version. I don't think that there is I think the reason that they only printed the lyrics to those songs is because these songs are the originals, because so I've got The Music in Me as a cover, Mother Earth Blues as a cover, and Without You is a cover of the Pete Ham, is it Pete Ham and Evans? Anyway, Badfinger, and that's the same song that Harry Nilsson did, that Mariah Carey did. It's that Without You, with Heart doing it. So yeah, I think we both got pretty much the same version of Magazine. So that I think originally came out tail end of 77, but the version that I have says 78. So very
well, Mushroom. Yeah, I was going to say Mushroom released a version of it that Heart did not approve of, and they went to court to force them to withdraw that version, and then they remixed some of the songs and reissued it with the new remixes on it. So that album has a pretty controversial backstory for the band. But yeah,
some don't consider it an actual album, and I'd be curious if anybody out there actually has that initial version that bought it back the day before it got pulled. So that was the first of 2 things to come out in 1978.
Yep. This is Dog and Butterfly. This was actually the first album by Heart that I ever heard. And my dad, when I was growing up, had this album and he used to play it a lot. So this was the first actual album. I'd heard some stuff on the radio, but had never heard an album all the way through until this one. This one is back to a gatefold shot there of the band, and then it's got the production credits, and then this is a customized label, Portrait Records. And the interesting thing about this album is the very first track on here, Cook with Fire, it sounds like a live recording. You hear some studio, you hear some audience noises, and then there's a MC who introduces the band Heart, and then they go right into the song Cook with Fire, but it's actually not a live recording. It was a studio recording, and they just dubbed in all the audience, which I'm not sure why they did that. It makes no sense. They weren't trying to market this as a live album, but nonetheless, it just kind of sticks out. Like, why did they do that? It makes no sense. But anyway, Straight On was the big hit off of here, Dog and Butterfly as well. But I think it's a really solid album. I like Hijinks a lot also. It's one of my favorite tracks off of here. But
yeah, and it was arranged in such a way that the Dog side contained the more rock stuff on it, the Butterfly side two had the lighter songs on it. So in that way, it was a quasi concept album. So yeah, I got a Canadian version on Portrait. It's got a nice gatefold. Kind of awkward in that it opens like this instead of side to side. And no lyrics, or at least no lyrics in the copy that I have. And yeah, this is really cool. It's a certain measure of success. I've said this many times, that a band gets a customized label on their record, as they do here with Dog and Butterfly. So it's not just the standard label version. So they're rolling along. And next we come to 1980.
Yep. And this is almost like a post-punk new wave sounding album. They kind of switched directions from sounding, like very either folky or Led Zeppelin-esque. And then this is kind of, almost like they were taking influence from some of the new wave bands, like the Talking Heads, or some of the New York bands that were coming out, like the Modern Lovers and some of those bands at that time. But this has really Even It Up, I think, is the only real radio hit on here, but it's a pretty solid album. This has got Ann and Nancy on the cover, and then the rest of the band on the back. And then not a gatefold. It's got an inner sleeve with lyrics on it and a photo on the back of the band. And then this is on Epic. The version that I have is on Epic, not a custom label or anything like that. So, packaging wise, it's not really elaborate, nothing too exciting here. And I think it's interesting too, on the back, you've got the back of Nancy and Ann's head as like the backdrop. Just a weird kind of creative decision there, but nonetheless, it was the 80s, and bands were trying to stay relevant by updating their sound and being a little edgier. So
yeah, the title song of this is pretty cool too. Rockin' Heaven Down's a good rocker, as the title might give away. Famously, so you may notice they're down to a 5-piece. Roger Fisher is gone now. Of course, this band, there was a lot of it. It's a little bit like Fleetwood Mac. There was a lot of inter-band relationships. So basically, their manager was a guy named Mike Fisher, and he lived with Ann Wilson for a time. And then his brother Roger was one of the guitar players in this band. He lived with Nancy for a while. Nancy and Roger Fisher had a nasty breakup. They switched management, and so now they're down to a 5-piece. So that's why there's only 5 guys on this one. I think my version's pretty much the same as yours, except mine's a Canadian version. And yeah, so they switched over to Epic, which is not that big a difference. It's just a different imprint. It's still CBS Records, and it's the same. That's a very recognizable logo for records in the 80s, the Epic logo. So also in 1980, maybe because, I don't know, maybe the label was sensing that, they weren't having, they came out of the gates with Magic Man, which was a top 10 hit. And they didn't, every time they put an album out, their singles kind of charted lower and lower. So maybe they were kind of getting the feeling that maybe we better strike while the iron's hot. I'm not sure. And then they put out this very confusingly titled album. On the front cover of this, it just says Heart. And the technical title for it, you can see that, it's Greatest Hits / Live. I know we're getting a glare here, but this came out in 1980 on Epic, and I've got a Canadian version of it. So this is half a Greatest Hits album to this point and half live stuff. So, disc. Record 1 has Barracuda, Crazy on You, Straight On, Dream on Annie, Even It Up, Magic Man, Heartless, Dog and Butterfly. That was all their hits to that point. And you may notice, yes, they did license the songs for Mushroom on this, even though this is on CBS. Side 2, they actually had a hit with their version of the Neville Brothers' Tell It Like It Is. That was actually a top 10 single for them. They do a version of Unchained Melody on here, which Ann, of course, sings the crap out of. They do a medley of I'm Down, Long Tall Sally. And because John Bonham had died in 1980, they end the version. This version has appeared on a lot of compilations with their version of Led Zeppelin's Rock and Roll. Other than that, there's some strange stuff into the song called Strange Euphoria and Hit Single. I don't even know how you describe those. And then there's just some various live tracks. This isn't a gatefold, but it's an extra thick sleeve. So it comes with 2 cardboard sleeves. The sleeves are in good shape. Like these are the ones that kind of, last the years. And this is a combination of band shots, band on tour shots. And then there's some like childhood photos of the band members as well. This is not the easiest thing to find these days, or find it intact, or find it with the sleeves. And once again, no customization on the logo. And to further confuse things, it just says Heart. So you almost think it was self-titled, but it's not. So for the next studio album, now we're up to 1982.
So this is probably my least favorite Heart album, if I had to pick one. This is Private Audition. Cities Burning. I love Cities Burning. Like right out of the gate, they go full throttle. It's heavy. It's really intense song. And then all of a sudden it switches into being a bad Sheena Easton album. It feels like.
That's like good. That's good.
It's like Bright Light Girl, Private Audition. Just, I can't even listen to that song. This Man Is Mine sound. I was like, I don't know. They were just, I know they were trying to figure out their direction and they were fumbling a little bit. I think The Situation is pretty good. That's kind of a hard rocker. Fast Times, if it had a better hook, I would like Fast Times better. But there's just too much mediocre stuff on here. This has got a shot of the band dressed to the nines on the back there. And then I've got no inner sleeve on here. I don't know if it came with one, but my particular copy does not. This was, again, on the Epic label. And yeah, just not a huge fan of this one.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Cities Burning is a great track. It's a great opening track. It's a rocker, and it's almost, no pun intended, but it's almost stranded on this album because it's far and away the best thing on here. And this may be the only case where we have an identical version in some ways, because this is a US copy that I have. Mine's actually a gold stamped promo copy. I don't know how well you can see that. It's hard to see, but right up above here, you can see part of it. It's for promotion only, ownership reserved by CBS, sale is unlawful. And it did come with an inner sleeve. Mine has an inner sleeve with like handwritten lyrics on it. It's hard to read, mind you. It's very hard to read. And the record looks, exactly the same. The only hit single off this one, if you call it that, This Man Is Mine, hit like number 32. And it's not very good. And then you'd play it for someone, they wouldn't even know it was Heart. I mean, they'd be like, is this the Pointer Sisters? Or like you said, Sheena Easton, that no rock really at all in those. But I think that they changed course really quickly. So that brings us to their next one.
Yeah. And this one is Passion Works. I like this album a lot better. This had the hit off of it, How Can I Refuse, which I think is great. This one has a lot more teeth behind it. So you got some great tracks on here. I love, they're trying some different things on here. Like Beat by Jealousy has got a very interesting guitar riff to it. I think Heavy Heart is a great track. One of the first times they actually used just, their name Heart in a song. It's got some slower stuff on here, but I think this is a much better album. This one I've got, it still has a hype sticker on it, which I'm happy about. And then this has got inner sleeve with lyrics, no pictures or other photographs on here. And then again, same Epic label. Nothing has really changed over the course of the last couple albums.
Yeah. Unfortunately, this album was not successful. It was the final one they did for Epic CBS. And this is the first album with their retooled lineup. So now they've got Howard Leese is the only guitar player they kept from the previous band. And so they got Denny Carmassi on drums, who played with Montrose, and then, as a result, Sammy Hagar, and then Mark Andes on bass, who was in the band Firefall. So that's the first time this lineup appeared on an album, but it was on an album that wasn't successful. How Can I Refuse is a great rocker. It kind of starts out like Judas Priest, You Got Another Thing Coming. Dun, 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 dun. But great song. Just missed the top 40. Allies was another single off this that I think should have been much bigger. It was written by Jonathan Cain, and it's like an anthemic kind of ballad. There's elements on here that should have made this into a big record, but it was not. And it's not the easiest one of their albums to find. I actually had to get this off of Discogs. The rest of the records, except maybe the greatest hits one, you can generally fill a Heart vinyl collection pretty easily. You see the records out there. So this is the same inner sleeve, and I think this, because this is a Canadian version, I think if we were to compare, I think the slightly different lettering on here, but not, just curious about that. It's a different font or something. Yeah. So you see it says the band name and the title are separated.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just interesting little differences like that. Obviously the very same.
Yeah.
So that brings us to me being 11 years old in 1985. The first time I ever heard of this band was the album that you're about to show us.
Yeah, this is their self-titled album. So if you grew up, I was in high school when this album came out, and it was all over the radio. You had MTV, so the videos were on MTV. They're looking all glammed out. Nancy Wilson looking extremely hot on the cover and in the videos. But yeah, this definitely put them back on the map musically. And actually, they incorporated some outside songwriters. Bernie Taupin actually is one of the co-writers on the track These Dreams. But yeah, this is probably one of my favorite albums of 1985, just because it's hit after hit. It's a really strong album. This has got a inner sleeve with lyrics that back when this album came out, I could read very easily, but now as an older man, I struggle to make out exactly the small font on here. But interesting that they even split the photograph up on here. Like, this is the rest of the band, and then on this side you've got Ann and Nancy. But yeah, it's a great album. Now this time they're on Capitol, and I owned this on cassette originally. I didn't get the vinyl till later, but yeah, this was exactly the shot that they needed to make them relevant again.
Yeah, this is where I first heard of this band. And I remember when I was a kid, you're a kid, you're just hearing these things. And I remember thinking, that's a strange name for a band, Heart. It's like, is that allowed? Can you just call yourselves Heart? Anyway, so yeah, obviously, What About Love and Never, those two songs I thought were just really, really cool. I was just starting to get into more guitar-oriented music, like just really started to listen to top 40 radio, period. So I always thought those songs were really cool. These Dreams was a number one song for them. Yeah, it was co-written by Bernie Taupin and Mark Page, you can look him up. And that song was actually written with Stevie Nicks in mind, but apparently she turned it down. Another cool fact about that song is that when Nancy, because that's one of the ones that Nancy sang, if you're a casual fan, you might not be able to tell the difference because, they're sisters, so they do have similar vocal styles. But Nancy sang that one, and she actually had a cold when she sang it. So there's little parts where there's a little rasp, and basically they said, no, leave that in there. That sounds good. So anyway, yeah, this was a huge comeback. I think it's their biggest selling album. I think it sold like 5 million copies. And Capitol was very smart to rebrand them, make it self-titled. So, they could have been a new band. Very 80s, very stylish, the clothes, the hair, everything, the videos. This is a Canadian version on Capitol. It's actually a Columbia House version, but on records, you can't really tell that till you get down to the small print. Same inner sleeve you were talking about. And yeah, lyrics are really hard to read. The red on black, especially, it gets smaller, seems smaller as you get older, but the red on black is really tough to read. And the record itself is your standard, it's not a custom label, but it's your standard, I call it the rainbow label because the colors just go all around. like that. And another thing that's interesting about this record, just curious if you get your copy of, and look at the serial number on it, because it makes a difference. Now mine's a serial number 12410. I'm wondering what yours is. You can see it on the spine of the sleeve or on the record itself.
Yeah, this is 512410.
Okay, so we got the same pressing, because there are two different mixes of the song Never.
Okay.
One has more guitar in it. Yeah, the video version has more guitar in it. And the other version that was originally, I think if we were to play this record, it would have the one that's got more keyboards on it. Mm-hmm. For some reason, they put the guitar heavy version on the CD, which is cool. That's the one I like better. They're very, very similar. And also the lyrics, I don't know why they did this, but the lyrics in the first and third verse are flipped, I think is how that goes.
Okay.
And it's a different vocal take too. Yeah. So that's something to look for if anybody out there knows. I mean, this is a huge album. So yeah, it was a huge album. It had 4 top 10 singles off of it, and one other single that came out, the 5th single that wasn't a top 40 single. I actually have some singles that were sent to me courtesy of Mr. Whitcher here. So thank you for that. So first of all, obviously all taken at the same photo session. This is Nothing at All, which was the 4th and final top 10 single from the album. And this is just a US sleeve, and the single itself looks the same as the record, the rainbow thing around it. And one of the heaviest songs in the album is the first song, If Looks Could Kill. That was released as almost a year after the album had come out as the 5th single. It wasn't a top 40 hit, but a great tune. Similar cover, similar photo shoot, not quite the same. I think basically they had to move around. And this is a promotional version, and I know that because it's a white label. It's what they call a white label promo. And it says right on it, not for sale. So that's very, very cool. The only one that's kind of the other thing that's worth mentioning about this, and you mentioned how heavy Heart, and there's Heartless, where they actually have the word heart in one of their song titles. If you find the single to What About Love, it's got a B-side that's not on this album called Heart of Darkness. So that's something to maybe put on the radar and look for. So yeah, they followed that up with another big album, 1987, Bad Animals.
Bad Animals. I really like the cover on this. I don't know, something cool about it. They got a new logo here. They got a back cover photograph of the band and some individual shots. Ann and Nancy, and then the rest of the band, just so it's clear who the stars are. Yeah. Same inner sleeve. This is a thicker inner sleeve here than their previous albums, kind of like the one that I've got for Dreamboat Annie. It's got the lyrics on one side and then the photograph and production credits on the other, and then a customized label here. And yeah, I mean, this had the hits Who Do You Run To and Alone were the big ones, at least around here. They got a lot of play on the radio and the videos. You could find on MTV in a pretty heavy rotation.
Yeah, Alone was another #1 song. Third single off of this I really liked. It's called There's the Girl. That was one that Nancy sang. That was top 20. That wasn't a huge song. Yeah, I got a Canadian, actually another Canadian Columbia House version. Mine still has the shrink wrap on it, but you can't open it from the side. Looks the same. Actually, this is just a paper sleeve. It's the same pictures, but that's just really cool how you can have the different pressings like that. And yeah, like yours, it's pretty cool actually. Customized label on it. We'll get it here so it can be shown. There we go. Yeah. And I have a 45 from this album too, the second single, Who Will You Run To? It's kind of beaten up. And this is a US single. Now this one's different because, okay, well, the single looks the same. It's got the rainbow capital logo on it, but the B-side is a live version of Magic Man that was recorded in Tokyo in June of 1986. So that makes it a little bit different. And the only other thing that I have on vinyl, I don't think any of their newer albums have come out on vinyl. I could be wrong about that. And I was actually very pleasantly surprised to come across this. I guess it's been a couple years now. 2 or 3 years on a record store day trip, I actually found the vinyl to Brigade, because by 1990, you didn't see that much vinyl. And this isn't a reissue. This is of its time. This is a U.S. version distributed by Columbia House on Capitol, but it's a Columbia House issue of their 1990 album. And this is a pretty good album all the way through, too. And of course, it had more hit singles off it. All I Want to Do Is Make Love to You, a Mutt Lange song. That was the biggest hit off of this album. Stranded, and I like when Nancy sings the occasional song. Stranded's a good power ballad. Didn't Want to Need You was a minor hit. Was never too crazy about that one, but it's got a couple interesting songs here. I mentioned earlier that Denny Carmassi, the drummer, played with Sammy Hagar in Montrose, and Sammy actually co-writes 2 songs on here, 2 of the best album tracks, The Night and Fallen from Grace. And if you knowing that, if you go into it, especially The Night, if you listen to that, I can hear Sammy singing that. It's very, very cool. Wild Child's a cool song too, more of a kind of a rocker. Yeah, and this one's got a cardboard sleeve. Got all the lyrics, photos of the band, and the record itself. By now, Capitol had gone back to using the purple label, but there is a little bit of customization because it's got this, H and a square here for some reason. So yeah, this is a pleasant surprise. I wasn't expecting to find this one. It did. So that's a look at our heart vinyl.
Yeah, that album artwork, I wonder if the same person designed that who designed Foreigner's Agent Provocateur.
Yeah. Let's just put the first letter of the band on here. Not a lot of imagination. Like, really, not a lot of imagination. They don't, Bad Animals was kind of a cool album cover, but yeah, this isn't a band that did consistently good, artistic album covers, really. But a lot of great music, and yeah, that's what we've got on vinyl. I'm curious out there as to what any of you folks have, if you've got some singles, or if you've got some of their newer releases that have also come out on vinyl. Would like to hear about them and see them too. So thanks, Jeff, for sitting in once again. We will be doing another one of these. I know we will at some point. And thanks everybody for watching Tim's Vinyl Confessions.
Thanks.